Okay.
Was talking about the NFL ever wasted time? I'm not sure it is. Oh, we're live. Hey, welcome, America, to Get to Know the CEO. It's hosted by America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan. You're never going to believe this. I'm America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan. The goal of the show is to humanize corporate America through the magic and power of stupid questions. Today's guest, who's going to bare his soul to the American public, is Jim Nusbaum, CEO of Barry Bagels. Jim, welcome to the show. Did I say your last name right?
You did. You got it. First time. Thanks, Eric. Great to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Can I tell you what I like about bagels? I think we should talk
Yeah,
a bit
confess, man. Let me have it.
This is my favorite bagel combination. An everything bagel, toasted, a lot of cream cheese. I think plain. I'm not like a plain guy, but I think the everythingness of the bagel, you need balance with the cream cheese.
Okay, I like a little balance.
Yeah. Then I go fried egg on top and hot sauce. And I think
hot sauce is good.
Oh my God. With cream cheese.
So my sandwich after on the weekend in the morning is we call it an egg sandwich on an everything bagel, toasted, bacon and pepper jack cheese.
Oh, pepper jack, little spice. See, that's
the
hot sauce idea. A little bit.
I know. We also have this Southwest jalapeno cream cheese. It's just great. But the little pepper jack, little egg sandwich, put you back together.
No shit. I mentioned this in the bio in the write up to this show that I think cream cheese is criminally underrated when it comes to cheeses, and I stand by that. Do you believe that to be true as well?
I do think it's underrated. I do. Especially when you start using really good cream cheese and making really unique flavors.
Right.
I think that we're seeing people although even though it's underrated, I think it's trending toward being used more on sandwiches. Like we're getting a lot of the corned beef and cream cheeses, pastrami and cream cheeses now. They're leaving Swiss and Munster behind and kind of.
I like that.
Going right to cream cheese.
We're running out of things to do with food combinations we have. So, I don't think there's a lot out there. So we have to start
some pioneers. They're like the Lewis and Clark of the bagel business.
That's exactly what they are. All right, let's get to these questions, shall we?
I'm ready. Hit me.
The first one was your three favorite bands coming in at number one. These boys, these Irish fellas from Dublin, U2.
Fantastic Forever, right? I mean, my generation's, I don't want to say they're the Beatles because they're not the Beatles, but so good for so long, so talented. I just think they're, to be great, I think you need to have staying power, evolve, unbelievable live band. The Sphere in Vegas now, I believe. So happy to stick with U2 there. I think that they're amazing.
I think I like what you said about the relevance thing, because an argument I always have is the greatest American rock band. And I say it's Aerosmith because I think their 3 decades of relevance is unbelievable. Like you can point to, whatever, Creedence or whatever, pick any band. No one has 3 decades of relevance. U2 is almost, certainly 2, maybe 3, which is very, very impressive for rock bands. I don't think people understand. Like the Beatles were only together for 4 years, 6 years, something like that. To be together for multiple decades and keep putting out music that people listen to is unbelievable.
And I agree with you. And Aerosmith would fit this too. I do think there's something about being great in concert that adds to it, at least. I'm a big Springsteen didn't make my list, but unbelievable in concert.
The concert thing is a big deal, and I guess that trends well to your other picks too. But I'll say, okay, we'll put a pause on that. But for a second, U2, what I found, I did a little digging. I didn't know this about their origin story. So the drummer Larry Mullen went to Mount Temple Comprehensive School. He puts out a flyer asking for people that'd be interested in starting a band. Let me be clear about this. That school had about 450 students. The people that show up in response to this flyer are Bono, The Edge, and Adam Clayton. That is
pretty good school.
No shit, 450 students. And there was 2 other guys who eventually quit and were kicked out. But these guys all went to the same small, tiny, comprehensive school, whatever that is, in Dublin, Ireland. And that's how do you explain that?
I think it's insane. And again, not a comparison, but how'd you like to play the high school baseball team with Clayton Kershaw and Matthew Stafford on it?
How does that? I know.
Or Bryce Harper and Chris Bryant.
It
Those are
doesn't make any sense. Like how
it's
you have these
insane.
pockets of wildly talented people and how they find each
Yes.
other is unbelievable. So I did have somebody else say U2 recently on the show, and
Yep.
U2 is one of those bands I think that gets a lot of backlash. So Reddit, the beautiful site that Reddit is,
Yes.
I like
Front page
asking,
of the internet.
yeah. So I asked why people hate U2. This is what comes up frequently. One is that they're inescapable. They're on like rock stations all the time, or
Sold out? Are they a sellout? Is that one of them?
well, yes, kind of. Bono is pretentious, comes up a lot. He is a little
He
bit of
is, by the way.
a
He would probably say he is.
yeah, I think he admits it. Arena rock is bad. I think people think arena rock is bad. I disagree. I like arena rock. I like a big show, but that's and then
Like
the
a
other
big
thing
show.
is the iTunes thing. Remember they put that album that you couldn't
Yeah,
really
yeah,
buy.
yeah.
That was a little something that wasn't good. But I don't think you can argue. If you look at like their best 20 songs, you know every one of them. And if they're in concert, they could play for 3 hours and you know every song.
Yes. And I think nobody iTunes, to say that they screwed up iTunes, your iTunes is like saying, I mean, nobody uses iTunes anymore.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was a small, unfortunate blip. Had they
It
put their
was a
greatest
miss.
hits, what are you going to do? Listen, you can't win them all. Number 2.
There they
Beach
are.
Boys.
If I
Yeah.
wasn't the CEO of a bagel franchise, this was my alternative career path.
You were going to be
Jewish
a white
rapper.
Jewish rapper.
Well, they made it possible for guys like me.
They did. They made it possible for a whole bunch of people. Yeah.
That I think License to Ill is great, but that's when everybody sort of found them. But I mean, talk about evolving. Paul's Boutique, I mean, and so on. I mean, they really changed, their music and creative, great. Obviously, the one guy passed away, but I just think, if there's a band in my youth, I think I would say BC Boys and the evolving and staying relevant. To your point.
I think so. There were a couple answers on your answer board that I just throughout life have said that I hate to be a contrarian to people because they're so universally beloved. One of which is the Beastie Boys, and I kind of do it to aggravate people. But I really thought about why I don't like them this time around, and
Okay.
I came up with this. One is that I don't know if I could tell they were characters, but in the beginning, to your point about License to Ill, Rick Rubin and Russell Simmons wanted to put together a like obnoxious group of frat boy white rappers because it was different and to bust through. And Rick Rubin at the time is he says this all the time, this huge professional wrestling fan. So he would go out and cut promos on MTV the way a wrestling manager would about how these guys were the greatest. And then they would act like frat boy idiots, and all their songs were satirical, but I don't think the public took them that way. I think they took him at face value. So there was like a lot of that. Plus, they came out at the same time where I was a huge hair metal fan.
Okay.
It wasn't like a hair metal versus anything else. I just was very wrapped up in
like Rat. Like, were you like Rat type? And
Rat was a little sleazy for me. I like it really polished, like Poison.
Like
Poison is my gold.
Poison, Motley Crue type
Motley
stuff.
Crue, yes. Skid Row to a certain extent.
Skid Row, all right.
Cinderella,
yeah,
that kind of thing. So I think that, but I did watch their documentary. I love that they went on tour when they were these like evil frat boy types with Madonna and would just bring up giant inflatable penises to Madonna's like 13-year-old fan base. Like they had balls. I'll give them that.
Yes. I do think the evolving though, like in their later music was just not recognizable compared to License to Ill, but still great.
No, they definitely changed genres. Well, they're always rap, but they were a different kind of. And that's the other thing too, is they're wrapped up in the golden age of rap. With like they're friends with Run DMC. They went on tour with Run DMC. They're legit, and it was just like it's an odd thing for Rubin and Simmons to go like, we're gonna make some white rappers for sales, and they came out to be a legitimate band that everybody loves. That's kind of it's interesting and weird.
Yeah, and I just think, again, maybe it's just a little bit time in my life, but just fun and, everybody listening to them, and then a little older, a little evolving. I thought they were pretty great.
I do think it's set in setting too, because like every white guy around my age loves them.
Yeah.
Like they really, what Simmons and Rubin set out to do, they did perfectly well.
They did. Mission accomplished for sure.
Yeah. All right, number 3. This tiny fella here. Prince.
Yes.
This is a standard trope about Prince, but the fact that he's 5'2", he wears eyeliner, he comes out in sequins and high heels, and he'll still steal your girlfriend, I think is notable every time. That's very
all day long.
Yeah.
I think the best, first of all, again, relevant for a really long time,
Yeah.
right? Purple Rain, before Purple Rain, everything else, but stayed relevant. But the best quote I heard about Prince was actually from Eric Clapton, where somebody asked Eric Clapton what it felt like to be the world's best guitarist, and he
Mhm.
said, "Go ask Prince."
Nice.
And I mean, the talent. He played 12 instruments. I, more talent maybe than anybody. And I just think, again, great in concert. The Super Bowl show in the rain is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, and relevant for a long time. And I just think talent, talent, talent. Songwriter. I mean, I just think he's amazing.
Did you see? So everybody talks about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance for George Harrison and the people that are on. Have you seen this performance?
It's like Tom Petty on there,
Tom
and
Petty, Steve
yep,
Winwood, Jeff Lynne, and then Prince
yes.
comes on. And I don't know if it's just the way that that they're presenting the
Oh, he sort
song.
of took the solo. Is that right? Is this the one where he sort
He
of
takes the solo, and it's ungoddamn believable.
right?
And I don't know if he's upstaging those other guys because he was clearly doing the solo, but it's what a presence. I guess the point is to have those other three guys on stage and to like put them to bed with your shit is unbelievable.
Yes. I just think, yeah, the talent is, hard to deny. And I just think, is he a different kind of guy? Probably. Or was he a different kind of guy? But holy smokes, what a talented, amazing, talented guy.
And he inadvertently gave us one of the best pieces of comedy in the history of comedy, which is Dave Chappelle's pancake basketball thing. Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Story. Oh, that's
Anything with Dave Chappelle is great. I thought you were going to tell me he also gave us Sheila E.
He gave us Sheila E. He gave. I mean, what
gave us, yeah, maybe Sheena Easton a little.
You know what he did do too? I read some fun facts about Prince. They said that he has so many songs in his archive. He was really one of these guys.
Yeah, they're gonna like Paisley Park is gonna keep releasing it or whatever.
Yeah, they said that he used to legitimately record for 16 or 17 hours a day, which probably explains the drug use. And then he has so much in his archives that he could release an album every year for the next 130 years or something. Which is,
insane.
It's
insane. So those are my three. Again, Springsteen didn't make my list, but I think he's great. I saw the Who in concert. They were fabulous.
Oh, the Who. You know what? The Who's never made this list, which is shocking because the Who is great. They're another band who I think could play forever and you'd know every song. But
you know who's really good in concert is Bare Naked Ladies or our Bare Naked Ladies.
Well, I've seen Poison non-ironically 11 times, and I got to tell you,
that's
average.
Really? Just average?
They're okay. I think here's the thing about Poison. Every year when I used to go, they would bring along like two other hair metal bands.
Yep.
And they're all kind of the same-ish,
Well,
I like it, but
Poison's Bret Michaels. Is Poison Bret Michaels?
Poison is Bret Michaels.
Okay. he's entertaining.
He is entertaining. We all know he's bald under that bandana, but
I think he just sort of, again, he plays his role and does great at it.
And those two shows he had, the dating shows on VH1, were delightful. Rock of Love. Did you ever see Rock of Love 1 or 2?
Not only did I see Rock of Love, it spawned Flavor of
Love, yeah, which spawned a whole bunch of other shows because, like, that chick in New
Yes.
York, did she have her own show?
Yes.
Oh man, what a time to be alive! What was that?
Hey, it's great. Find whatever you want.
Mm-hmm. All right. Speaking of entertainment, on the screen, the top 3 movies. Number 1.
This has got to be on your list a lot.
This lives on my list along with the Beatles. Prince makes this list a lot too.
Oh, that's good. Makes me feel good. I mean, The Godfather, obviously, I think maybe the best movie ever. I'm not a Citizen Kane guy, but amazing. I mean, everything's amazing. I think the making of Godfather is its own sort of movie. I love watching the outtakes of people trying for other parts. And by the way, a phenomenal book by Puzo. But
I've heard that the book is better. Isn't it? Doesn't combine Godfather 1
it does.
That kind of thing?
It does. The book is unreal. And no secret why this is on anybody's list. I don't think.
This is the other thing that I used to shit on just to be a contrarian to make people mad. But what I did do, because I'm a professional, is recently I rewatched it. Because here's the thing, and again, Reddit helped me understand my own feelings about this. Reddit explained that when you watch The Godfather, it has a lot to do with the way that you took it in. So my favorite movie of all time is Billy Madison, because when I was 14, it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. It
Sure.
informed my way of looking at the world and humor.
Well, and I have a movie on this list that's not unlike that, but keep going.
Right. So when you're 14 and then you're like, oh, I'm going to watch some classics, and what you love is Billy Madison and Tommy Boy, and then you watch The Godfather, you're like, this is fucking trash. Why does everybody love it? But now, as an adult, I watch it and I go, oh, this is an objectively great movie. I see why everybody loves it. But part of what Reddit explained too was like some of the tropes in retrospect look stupid only because they've done a million times before. So like when he's petting his cat, right? That is parodied in Inspector Gadget and Dr. Evil.
Yep.
And Tony Soprano with the ducks. Like it's become so in our zeitgeist that in retrospect it looks goofy, but at the time it was like they set that thing up. That was the first thing, and there's a lot of those moments here that have been retread, like Casino and Goodfellas and all that shit. So if you can look at it when you're a little bit smarter and not a 14-year-old idiot, then it can't be argued with. It's a great movie, unfortunately for me.
You were prejudiced. You came in predisposed.
Yeah, and I looked at it too critically, or as through the lens of an idiot. So that's what happened. But yes, in rewatching, yeah. But I've learned. See, that's what you should do in life.
It happens.
Let me tell you about your second movie. So this is
you hate this movie.
I don't hate this movie. I think this is, and I didn't. Again, this is one of the movies I think I watched it when it came out, and it didn't speak to me the way it did now. But this is straight white American male. Emotional porn.
100%.
It's, and I'm not saying this disparagingly. I'm saying this as a compliment.
You can say it disparagingly. I recognize this is a place and time in your life movie that, you know, whether you had your relationship with your dad and all those things, this is not Citizen Kane by any stretch. Also, by the way, happens to be a great book by it's called Shoeless Joe by W.P. Kinsella, and he named the character in the book Ray Kinsella. And again, very time in your life, all those things. Yes.
So I watched, actually, in life, I've been watching a lot of Siskel and Ebert reviews on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I went to the Siskel and Ebert review of Field of Dreams, and Ebert called the movie a miracle. He loved it.
That's a little strong.
It is a little strong, but Siskel admitted that like he didn't buy into it. And I think that's the crux of this movie. If you buy into it, and then you get affected in a way that's probably not healthy. Like, all right, so I watched the ending scene where he sees his father. I think we can spoil the movie. It's been 35 years, but he's walking away. He refuses to call him dad. And then when he's walking away, he's like, do you want to have a catch? And then the camera to end the movie pulls back of him and his dead father playing catch. If that doesn't affect you, I'm not sure that you have soul, but you have to buy into the idea that he's playing catch with his
Of course. No. You have to suspend disbelief a little bit to be moved by the movie.
But if you can suspend disbelief, then it becomes unbelievably emotional. There's something about baseball with fathers and sons and America, and
I almost call it. So I sort of want to call an audible on my next one, but that's okay.
Okay, well, we can let's do this, and then you can add it on to the end. I will say, so in my own life, I went to a World Series game at Fenway Park with my father, and the moment wasn't lost that like this is touching the sun in a lot of ways for
sure. So I went to the 1984 World Series in Detroit with my dad. I was a kid. You know, he took me to the home games. He's like, the Tigers are never going to be in the World Series. And again, I remember it now, right? It was 40 years ago and remember it vividly. So there is something. Now, ask my wife, just feel that she's like, I like Kevin Costner. It's a good movie, whatever. But like, yes, in terms of, the
that's
meaningful.
A good point. It's not, it can't be universally beloved because this idea isn't universally beloved. Not because it's not great, but it's so specific. Like the all-American love of baseball. You kind of have to have that in you because otherwise it's not really going to translate.
Correct.
But the Ray Liotta thing, when Shoeless Joe first comes to the field, he crushes that scene.
He's unbelievable in it. And I think he That's the wrong. There's something he does different than Sheila Show, and they were just like, he's too good. The Ty Cobb commentary, um, yeah, it's just great.
The doctor
He,
character that breaks the barrier and then goes back to being old and then dies. I mean, that's like,
yeah,
it's just the emotional porn is just, oh my God.
it's unbelievable, right?
So good. All right.
Yes.
Less emotional porn in this movie, but this is Bill Murray at his Bill Murrayest, I would say.
This is your Billy Madison
Yeah.
analogy. There's nothing meaningful. There's nothing moving. There's nothing. This is not a great movie if you're in film school.
Right.
This was pure, just fun, funny, and it's on. I still watch it all the time, and it's just really funny. And I will say, probably brilliantly written by Harold Ramis, but I mean, there's nothing. This is not Citizen Kane in any way.
No, but I'd much rather watch Stripes than Citizen Kane, and I think if people are being honest with themselves, they would too.
It's just great. It's fun. John Candy. I mean, it's just fabulous.
And it is a set and setting movie too, because you have Bill Murray at his Bill Murrayest. You have Ramis, who kills it all the time. John Candy was in it. It was directed by Ivan Reitman, who did Meatballs, Twins, the Ghostbusters series. He produced Animal House, Heavy Metal, and Private Parts. I mean, this is a lot of that era's comedy boiled down to its truest essence.
And to your Bill Murray point, right? You have, again, in some order, Meatballs, Caddyshack, Stripes, Ghostbusters,
yes,
Prime, all that sort of stuff. And again, when you're that age at that time, it's just funny. And again,
it's funny that you did that lineup, because my lineup has always been like, I point to the Jim Carrey years with Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber. Like nobody had a better two. I would, until you're making me think about Murray, like in terms of comedic movies that just hit and hit and hit and hit. As much as I love Sailor and Billy Madison, it doesn't stand up, certainly box office wise, I think, in cultural zeitgeist to what Jim Carrey did. But Bill Murray had that lineup too, I think, in the 80s.
I think so too. And remember, I'm going to give you another one that had it. Was Eddie Murphy with Trading Places, Beverly Hills Cop, Coming to America, 48 Hours.
Yeah, Murray crushed it too. Yeah, and I mean, do we have that these days? This is my thing about my rant about Hollywood. It's all big budget now.
If I looked at Jonah, believe it or not, if I looked at like Jonah Hill's IMDb thing, I bet there's some movies that are pretty great.
Yeah, I think
probably some that aren't.
But here's the thing: that are. I reference this all the time because there's no comedies we all could go see. The last comedy everyone went and saw, including me, was Superbad, Jonah Hill, in 2007. 2007 was a long time ago, and I don't think there's been a run of those type, even like the Bridesmaids things. That was all then, And the death of the mid-budget movie is kind of, it sucks for comedy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I will tell you an underrated comedy. I think it's underrated. I do think Forgetting Sarah Marshall's fantastic.
That was before Russell Brand went full.
Full crazy, but
that's a better word. Yeah,
it's a pretty good movie.
It's great, but again, that's I think in what are they called, the aughts, the O's, whatever. I think that came out then too. I think we've had a long time before there's been a comedy that everybody's seen and talks about. And
we also got marveled, right? So
yeah, I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine, I did laugh out loud. So, but I don't think it was a comedy. Well, it was.
No, it's just he's just meta and funny and all that stuff.
All right, let's move on to books because now we're going to
wait. I want an honorable mention.
Oh, that's right. You had an audible. What was it?
My honorable mention, again, a little bit Field of Dreams-ish, is Hoosiers.
Oh, see.
So I went to Indiana University. Hoosiers came out in the sort of before I went there, and when you're at Indiana, basketball is a certain place, and Hoosiers has a certain place, and great movie. Now that I will tell you is a well-made, different than Stripes. The music, the cinematography. I think it's extremely well made, and again, great movie.
Some Hollywood tropes I enjoy, and I'll tell you this, and it's not just because you're on the show, but the gangster movie is generally going to be good. The movie where a bunch of goofballs fight authority is generally going to be good in that Stripes. And then you have with Hoosiers and Field of Dreams sports. Just sports works so well for movies because
Yeah,
of you know where it's going. The end is going to
you
be
know
the
where it's
game.
going.
It's going to be close. There's going to be a lot of drama. The end of a sports movie is never a blowout. It's never 77-7, in a football
Right.
game. It always comes down, but it always works emotionally.
Good movies make it work. Miracle made it work. You
Oh,
knew they were
Miracle.
going to win the gold medal, but they made it work.
That was like Titanic. You know the ending of the movie, and we
That's
know
why I
what
wouldn't
happened
go
in
see
Miracle.
Titanic. I said I know what happens.
I like the sequel.
The iceberg wins.
All right, now let's do books. Let's
All
get
right.
smart for a second. Too big to fail. Is this the
I
one?
think it's one of the most well written books about a real complicated thing. And I just think the depth that the author goes into the explaining what is a very complicated situation behind the scenes on the Wall Street, investment banking firms. I
Yeah.
just think it's and a global, something that really did have a global impact at the time. I just think so well written, and I think I've read it more than once. I think it's great.
I haven't read it, but I like what you said about it. And so I have another show where I interview authors of nonfiction books, and I only read nonfiction, but so many nonfiction books take the same approach and sound very much the same. So if what you have to do in something like this, the global financial crisis of 2008, is you have to interweave stories, I think, of like people losing their houses and people losing their jobs, and it can't just be a textbook. And from what I understand from the reviews, that's what Andrew Ross Sorkin did.
I think yeah. I mean, it is really, again, paints the picture of what happened, but to your point, interweaves real world impact, and it's incredible, and it also is a window, right, for someone like me who lives in Toledo, Ohio,
Yeah.
where Wall Street kind of seems, in some ways like a different planet. Um, a window into that world, I think is just fascinating for me.
I think it's fascinating too because from the limited things I know, like at a very macro level, from what I understand, American mortgages used to be a good bet because they were difficult to get. Then what people did is made them very easy to get. I remember no income, no asset verification loans. So you didn't have to prove that you had a dollar or had a
There you go.
paycheck coming in.
The
And
ninja
then,
loans, no income, no job.
right? And then what they do is they allow you to buy $1 million house. So
Yep.
everyone wants to get mad at the banks because it was predatory lending, but it was also dumb borrowing. So those two things combined, and then the world falls apart. Well, what did you think was going to happen? I just don't.
Yeah, math works, and that's what The Big Short is a lot about that, and the movie and all that sort of stuff is pretty soon the system just couldn't sustain itself.
But obviously, it wasn't going to be able to. I just love tales of when very seemingly smart people do incredibly dumb shit for whatever reason. In this case, it was
Well,
greed. But
so somebody I know came up with a phrase for that, which I like, which is called a belated glimpse of the obvious, which means
a belated glimpse of the obvious. I'm gonna
yes,
write that down and pretend I came up with it. I like that.
yeah, it wasn't me either. I'll have to remember who told it to me, but it is a great saying of sort of like, hey, of course this was going to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
And,
and
and then everybody acts shocked.
yeah, exactly.
All right, let's move on to the second one. So this is Project Hail Mary. Is this the right one?
It is. So I usually 90% of the time at this point read nonfiction. I just think the world sort of has enough fascinating things that actually happen.
I totally agree. That's what I say about nonfiction.
Yes. Yeah. So, however, I think this is an amazing book. It's just entertaining, and it also speaks to my kind of inner nerd because it's very, sort of technical and a lot of like science stuff in it. So this book is about, I don't know if you ever saw the movie The Martian.
I have not, although I know that this guy wrote that book as well, right?
Yes, he did. And so Project Hail Mary is about, I'm trying not to spoil it, but it's about a problem that is basically going to wipe out the world. And how do humans go about solving it, and the story of that. And it's like a long book, and you read it in a week, can't put it down, super entertaining. And I would highly recommend it for a detour from real life if anybody wants that.
Hello, Gabe. This is what okay, so again, I haven't read this book, but I did do a little bit of research on it. A lot of people, I watched them YouTube reviews, call this their favorite book of the year. It was universally beloved. Somebody said it was optimistic science fiction, and they contrasted that with usually a sort of dystopian view of what's going to happen. Somebody called it Ted Lasso in space, which I thought was,
I see that. I can see that.
And then from what I understand, it's a white room novel, meaning that somebody wakes up in a white room, doesn't know who they are, and then has to figure out, right? Which is another trope that, although pervasive, I think, works in a lot of ways.
It does. It's really, and again, I would agree with all of those things. And, my favorite book of the year, I can't even remember the last fiction book I've read besides this. And I enjoyed The Martian, and I was like, I'll give this a shot. It's awesome. I mean, it's awesome.
Maybe I'll give it a shot. The last fiction book I tried to read was Anthony Jeselnik, him, the comedian.
Yeah, sure.
He had like the top 10 thing, and then his number one book of last year, I forget what it was, but I bought it and tried to read it. I just can't do it. I just need dry facts, evidently, is the thing that I like in life.
I understand. I'm with you.
I don't know. It's weird. Speaking of facts, but this looks a little more interesting. The buck stops here. This is
has this ever made your list?
Never. And not only has it not made my list, but I couldn't find a lot about it in general.
So the buck stops here is there's about 28 short stories. Yeah. If you like history at all, it's worth reading. So each short story is kind of a pivotal moment in the country's history, whether it's the Bay of Pigs or dropping the atomic bomb or the Civil War or whatever. And it's a quick in-depth look at the thinking of the president at the time. And it's like, what were they actually thinking? And it's really just a great window into history. And it's funny, like, for example, Truman with the atomic bomb. Yeah. We sort of look at it in a big view of, this changed the world, and it was, moved us to a new level of war. And Truman's like, of course I dropped it. It was a big bomb. Like, I just wanted, he was thinking of it very simple. In fact, he thought that if he didn't drop the bomb, he would be accused of treason because he had it at his disposal and
didn't
use it. So again, it's just like things, and that's an example of the book and it starts, early and moves through American history. And it's just I give this book out to leaders and their businesses, and just like, hey, it's not exactly an analogy, but it's a little window on how leaders make decisions on things you've heard about but maybe didn't know a lot about. And
I think the concept is brilliant. I think that putting decisions in context and doing a deep dive in a singular thing is inherently interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And again, the Truman one is just he's like, I had a big bomb. He's just like, that's that simple. And so, and again, it's not a moral book. Like, it doesn't argue morality of these type of things. It's just pure decision-making calculus, if you will. And I think it's pretty fascinating.
I listened to this podcast. I forget what it's called, but it really did a deep dive into singular moments in American history. And one of the episodes was on the Boston Massacre. So what they did is they took the newspaper articles from our side, but then they read aloud the newspaper articles from England. And seeing the other side, I was like, yeah, fuck us. They should have shot us.
Right.
Once you see the other, it's the context thing. And
it's all it is. And I mean, as long as you understand that you're receiving information through a filter, then you're able to reconcile that.
And look, you just sold a book. I don't know if you get any.
There you go, Gabe. Check it out. You'll like it.
It sounds fascinating. All right, let's see if we can get maybe Gabe is a little hungry, doesn't know what to have for lunch. You want to talk about your death row meal?
My death row meal. Yeah, let's see it. I got
I made a little collage. Okay.
This will kill you. This meal. This is a quick trip.
It's convenient that they're gonna gas you because this is I just want to, before you talk, I just want to tell you that I looked up the history of some of these meals. First of all, spinach artichoke dip is ungoddamn believable. But did you know it's a product of World War II?
I didn't.
It's because soldiers who came back from Europe, they developed a taste for European flavor combinations, which included things like spinach, artichoke, lemon, garlic, and Parmesan cheese. Thank God for World War II.
And I agree with you, but did you know M&Ms are a product of World War II?
Is because they didn't melt in their pockets or something? Is that
They wanted candy and didn't melt, so they developed it for soldiers.
What did World War II not give us? Well, can't get into that. But spinach artichoke dip is I know there's not a lot of objective things, but objectively delicious. If you don't like this, what do you like?
Yeah, stay out of my house. Right?
Yes.
What's in there that you guys like? It's fabulous.
And it's in terms of American bistro restaurants, which scale from Applebee's to the greatest steakhouses in the world, this is probably on the menu, which goes to show you its universal appeal to our flavor palette. And there's something to be said for that.
Agreed. Absolutely.
All right, you start out with a nice dip, which may or may not have cream cheese in it. I don't know how you make it. I mean, it's a creamy.
Anything cream. Yeah, this is like the highest calorie.
Yeah.
Like worse. This is, but it's fabulous.
You may have a heart attack before the state has a chance to put you to sleep. So
that's okay.
Spinach artichoke dip. Then you're moving on to fried pickles. I did a little research on this. They were invented by Burnell Fat Man Austin in 1963 at the Duchess Drive-In in Atkins, Arkansas. Were you aware of that?
I was not. I haven't seen their franchise listed.
But for deep fried pickles, I got them recently at a place. They're great.
So my son turned me on to them. I have a son who's 19, and what he learned at Ohio State, he came home from college and started ordering fried pickles, and never really was turned on to them before, but pretty great. Especially with that sauce you have there, yeah.
That little, that red, I don't know, is it
that
like
red, whatever that is, yeah.
Mayonnaise that went to college. What I do like, I like these version of the fried pickles. The last time I got them, they deep fried.
I don't like the spears. Yeah, no spear. Give me the circle. Give me the chips.
That's what because the crispy to pickle ratio is off in the spear, and it's perfect in the slice.
And the crispy falls off the spear.
It does fall off the spear, and I don't think,
spear's a little lazy, right? It's like I don't even want to chop it up.
It's because you have to do less of them, and that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, but give me a little effort. Give me a little something for the effort.
All right, so the next one, Gabe is open to the sweet potato fries.
Gabe, you and me, buddy.
All right. Fried pickles, yes. Okay, I will say this. I don't spend too much time.
The juice will smoke you. Yeah, you got to be careful.
Shit, they have that pizza roll thing going about.
They do the exploding. Yeah, there's sort of pressure.
Yeah.
Like it's like you open up the little pressure and it squirts out at you. You got to live dangerously, I guess.
You do. I think they're like avocados in the way that they're only ripe for a very small amount of time, meaning that the outside is still crispy, but the inside won't melt your face. So
yeah, the Goldilocks zone is small.
It's a finite window of enjoyment. Sweet potato fries. I think French fries, another thing. I think
sweet potatoes underrated.
I think they are too, and I think I prefer them. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. All things being equal, I think the sweet potato fries.
I think it's the cream cheese of the potato family.
It could be. It's underrated, but it's extraordinarily good, and it's not. People don't give it the love it.
It sort of fakes you into also being healthier.
Yeah, because the sweet potato is low on the glycemic index, so I think
my A1C enjoys it better.
Yeah, and they go very well with ketchup, just like normal fries do. There's nothing to dislike about the sweet potato. As a matter of fact, it adds extra flavor to the thing you already like.
There you go.
And then you're going with the only healthy option, I think, in your entire lineup is the grilled asparagus.
I do like grilled asparagus. A lot of people don't. I like it a lot.
A lot of people don't like grilled asparagus?
Yeah, I think the green scares them off.
Mm. Man, fries are so good. Here's the thing about asparagus. I think it gets a bad rep because for years people only ate asparagus that came out of a can, and it was very limp and flaccid and not very flavorful. Fresh asparagus, especially grilled, still crisp, still delightful. So
it's great. And by the way, putting kosher salt, or Parmesan cheese, oil, all that stuff, you can tune it up pretty well.
They're a blank canvas in a lot of ways.
I like, yes, an asparagus canvas.
All right, let's move on to your second. Yes, the cream cheese of potatoes.
See, there you go.
Someone talk to the sweet potato.
Talk to the sweet potato union.
Yeah, get him on the phone. All right, upper left-hand corner. I don't know that this is the exact sandwich, but I did go to the Barry Bagel Instagram page to try to find
There we
pastrami on
go.
everything bagel. Is this
I
close?
should give a shout out to our new social media manager, Courtney, who is
Yeah.
part of her job, should be listening right now.
Hell of a picture, and it sounds delightful. This is what I was going to say in the beginning. I'm glad I saved it for now when we were off camera. The bagel as a bread for sandwiches, another thing that I don't think is used enough because it's delightful as a vehicle for meat and condiments.
Yes, I agree. And we sell a lot of sandwiches, obviously, and a lot of people take our bagels home to make sandwiches, but it does, you can make infinite combinations depending on the type of meat, veggies, cream cheese,
Yeah.
and type of bagel. So we sell 17 kinds of bagels.
Woo.
And then, start combining that with all the different kind of meats that we sell. And we can pretty much guarantee that you're going to find something you like.
Not in the town I live in now, but the town I used to live in, we had a bagel place. They did a Reuben on a pumpernickel bagel. Oh,
Yeah, pretty
my
good.
God. Right?
See?
All right, so that's a good sandwich. Again, nothing that's going to help your cholesterol, but who cares? You're about to die. The second one, you did a thin crust pizza from a local pizza joint. Obviously, I don't know what that is, but thin crust. And again, I feel like we're agreeing a lot, and maybe that doesn't make for great viewing. Thin crust is to me the only kind of crust there should be, with the exception maybe of stuffed crust occasionally. But that kind of died
Occasionally.
in the 90s.
I think thin crust, it's just better. I mean, again, I think the bread, and again, look, it's almost like there's really no pizza that's bad pizza, right? It's just sort of degrees of good or great. Um, the thick crust pizza is a little too doughy for me. It's too, if I want bread, I'll eat something else. I think thin crust is just a better representation of what pizza should be. I am may not be in the majority or even large minority, but there's a place where I live. I'll give them a shit. J&G's,
Yeah.
which has been around forever, which serves thin crust pizza that is piping hot out of the oven that I think is fantastic. It's probably my favorite. It's my favorite pizza. And it's great. And there's other, it's again, it's a family owned restaurant. And that's what I think of. J&G's will send me to death row, but fabulous.
I don't want to pull the I've been to Italy thing, but I've been to Italy and you never find a Chicago style deep dish pizza there. It's all
there you go.
thin. They invented it. Why? I mean, again, aside from maybe
It's
Pizza
not
Hut
bad though, right? I mean, like it's not.
fine.
It's fine. It's
It's
fine.
one of those things where placed against the alternative, it's obviously not good.
No, I understand, but in and of itself, in a vacuum, it's not going to be like
In a vacuum, it's not objectionably bad, but
yes.
put against something. Plus, the thin, like I'm typically not a crust eater because I think it's a handle. But if it's thin and then at the place they serve like olive oil and Parmesan and little fucking pepper flakes, now you turn into
Now you'll go to the edge.
Now I'm going to the edge.
Well, we got to take you to the edge.
Right. It is an edible plate. That's what I like about Ritz crackers. That's what Mitch Hedberg said. Edible plates. Okay. Blue Moon. I love the Blue Moon orange combination, but from a personal perspective, I think wheat-based beers, I have some sort of allergy to them. They put me to sleep, but I do like it. Tastes good.
It's this is sort of the Field of Dreams version of beer.
It's the feeling. Yes, I would agree with you. There's got to be
it's just this is like down the middle.
Yeah.
Like, hard to dislike. It's good. We make local beers here that, I think are great. I'm not, I just think if I'm out and everyone carries it and it's definitely kind of good enough. So I'm with it.
I will say this. So as a white male in his 40s, I'm genetically predisposed to loving IPAs, which I do. A lot of beers claim to be refreshing. Like that's a thing about American shitty piss water beers. And like it's hydrating. No, it's not. But I would say Blue Moon makes a case for being refreshing.
I think it's close.
It's as close as you can get.
It's Field of Dreams of beers.
It is the Field of Dreams of beers. And then you're going Knob Creek for your bourbon. Interesting choice. Straight up.
Yeah. I mean, just let me have it.
Yeah. I'm a bourbon drinker, and I think bourbon, Knob Creek might be the Blue Moon equivalent here, which is right down the middle.
I'm very unsophisticated when it comes to this stuff. So I go, give me right down the middle. Like Blue Moon and Knob Creek are equivalent to each other in their respective channels, probably.
I agree with you.
And it's good enough for me. I have friends who are bourbon connoisseurs and have basements full of different bourbons and can go to a bar and get into a long discussion. Uh, I enjoy it, but I'm just not anywhere as sophisticated as that.
I am probably skewed probably more towards your friends. Although 2 days ago, I bought a Knob Creek. So look at this. I don't know if it was serendipitous. I didn't read this first, but Knob Creek is a very
It was
good.
subliminal. I put it in your head as you were preparing for this.
It could have been. It's one of those things where, in the bourbon community, i.e., the alcoholic community, when you say something like an everyday drinker, I think Knob Creek 9 or 12 is a very good everyday drinker.
There you go.
It's reasonably priced and it tastes like bourbon. There's no like weird flavors around it. It's just that's good brown booze.
I agree. So I'm kind of down the middle again. Not, look at what's on this page.
Yep.
Sandwich, pizza, Blue Moon, and Knob Creek. This is I'm from Ohio. Like this is
very American.
This is very Midwestern.
It's very American.
Very American. Very patriotic.
I find myself defending American cuisine on here, not a lot. Not that people attack it on this show, but I think in general, when people go, what's your favorite cuisine? They'll go Italian or whatever. Nobody ever says American because it just doesn't pop in your head, but we crush it in a lot of places, especially, I would say, your third, which is dessert. I think we crushed dessert. You did chocolate cake. I did chocolate cake on chocolate frosting here. I don't know if that was the
it was right there.
Okay, but a good chocolate cake. Oh, you can't argue with that, can you?
No, I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah, I agree with a nice. I mean, you didn't include milk, but I think this begs for milk a little bit.
Maybe a little scoop of ice cream.
You have
like a little. What, Gabe? Don't be a hater, Gabe. I understand what he's saying, Gabe. That's how I get my vitamin C. I don't want to get
scurvy.
I don't want scurvy. My teeth will. So I hear you though, Gabe. I understand. But chocolate cake, yeah, it's again very down the middle, and a good chocolate cake. You know, what's really good chocolate cake is Portillo's. If you're familiar with them.
No, where's Portillo's?
More Midwest, Chicago. But they do a huge mail order business. But a good chocolate cake where you are, I'm sure is fabulous. But good chocolate cake.
The other thing, it's hard to fuck up a chocolate cake because I even think out of a box is pretty great.
Agreed. Definitely tough. But I think I'm with it. Chocolate cake, pizza, chocolate cake,
sandwich,
sweet potato fries,
artichoke dip.
Roll me right into that chair.
One vegetable. I like the one vegetable. This
asparagus.
Is a Midwest death row meal, which
it is. This is like in Mansfield, Ohio, at Shawshank Redemption, where they put me down.
Oh, we should have had. You should have told me about Portillo, whatever that was. We should have ordered a cake. Next time around, we're gonna eat.
Next time, when I'm back for version 2.0.
Which will be any day now, I'm sure. Okay, now we're moving on to the last one. These are your quotes. Okay. Your first quote is from somebody who is not you, which is this guy. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is Peter Drucker. Is that his name? So tell me about this. Well, I would imagine Barry Bagels has something like what? A bunch of stores. How many stores?
Yes. So we have 18 stores open. We have 7 under construction, 26 more signed and under development. So a total of 51 stores either open or under development in the Midwest. And, for this, strategy to me, and it's not to diminish it, but strategy is how maybe leadership sets the course for their company. Culture is how we are going to act inside our 4 walls to create an exceptional experience for our employees, our customers, and our vendors, we believe are our partners. And, we can come up with all the strategy that we want, but if we don't have a good culture, we'll never be able to execute it. So culture is and good food is what brings people. It's what makes people want to eat at our stores. What makes people want to work at our stores, which can't be overlooked these days. And I think that, I agree. He's probably smarter than me, but I agree with the quote. And I think good companies, embody this.
Especially a company like yours, where you have a lot of front-facing people. You're dealing directly with the public. You can't, hide. You're not you're not B2B. You're B2C in person, which is tough.
Yeah, and so you can't fake it, and you gotta live it, and and people really, I do think, have high radar for authenticity,
Mm,
good or bad. And
right.
so, if you're inauthentic, if you want an authentic culture, people will be able to sense if you're faking it. And I think that setting the tone for we value our employees, we value our franchisees, we value our vendor relationships, and we certainly value our customers. But you have to act that way. And so I think that I agree. He said it better than me. That culture, whatever strategy you want to come up with, is uh, important, but only if you create the culture whereby the strategy can live. And
Yeah.
I think that that's important.
Well, speaking of authenticity and not
Yeah.
authenticity, we have a second quote.
There you go. Jim Nussbaum,
Yeah,
21st century philosopher.
right. And he says that lingo is a refuge of the insecure. And I'm glad you said that because there's very few things that bother me more than corporate culture lingo, like the
Yeah.
acronyms, and that it does. I've never thought about it this way, but I think you might be right. I think they're hiding behind something, and I think it's bullshit new words that nobody really cares about or understands.
Well, I think part of the responsibility of leadership is to communicate things to people in a understandable way.
Mm-hmm.
And if I am in a discussion with somebody, whether it's a vendor or you know point of sale provider or whatever, and we're talking, and I ask a question, and all of a sudden they kind of revert to acronyms and lingo and things that try to push me off my platform to ask questions.
Yeah.
That's what lingo is, to push you off your platform so you don't
Eh,
feel secure asking questions. And so to me, that means you're in. As soon as I start hearing some those type of things, my radar goes up.
Interesting.
And so I view it, to me, it doesn't mean you're not, you're unsophisticated in any way, but clarity is supposed to be a responsibility of leadership, in my opinion.
Mm.
And so I think that, you know, as soon as people start fading into lingo, I'm like, you know, something's up. And, I just, again, I think that that's a way to put people on their back foot. It's a way to gain tactical advantage, or try to, in a discussion. And again, it's something I consciously try to avoid. Now, if I have to, if we're talking about something that you don't understand,
Yeah.
my job is to explain it to you so that you do understand it. It's not just to say, well, this is, ROI or KPI, and just leave it lay there,
Yeah.
you know? And so that's what people do. They sort of leave it lay. They'll say, oh, our KPIs are this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, and they
Gotta
just
let
let it lay. My job is to explain to you, well, our key performance indicators are this, 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 and this, and here's why they are. To me, I think that's authentic leadership. And, I just view it as, when you fade into corporate speak or lingo, that's, you know, my antenna go up.
Interesting. I was thinking about this not so much in terms of business, but just because I interview people kind of for a living. I think there's on one it you I sometimes you want to get the person that you're interviewing off filter a little bit so they give you more authentic answers. Howard Stern would ask you about your sex lives. But in exact opposite, like being too boring and using acronyms that nobody gives a fuck about also does that same thing, but in a different way. But I think they're trying to do the same thing, which is an interesting point I've never considered before.
Yeah, I just think it's a way. It's also a way to try to shut down discussions, right? If I
Right.
say, "Oh, my KPIs are this," and you don't know what KPI is, you're just like, you either have to reveal you don't know by asking.
Then you look dumb.
Exactly. Which is,
Mm.
so, or you know, you're willing to go there and ask, and that sort of thing. So I view it as, a real responsibility of leadership to speak in a way that promotes clarity, that encourages questions, and, not devolve in sort of lingo of the day, or that sort of thing.
In a show where we talked a lot about spinach artichoke dip, I did learn something about business, which I didn't see coming. But look, yeah,
I brought it around the corner. You thought it was just asparagus and sweet potato fries.
And Field of Dreams.
Yeah,
No,
there's
no,
some
no.
real horsepower in this company.
You're
So yes, I brought it all together.
And that's what a good leader does. That's what a good guest does. So before I got to log off. We almost did the full hour, which is great. But you were unbelievable guest, very insightful, thoughtful, interested in your picks, which always helps. Do you want to do a quick plug about Barry Bagels, where you can go get 17 varieties of bagels?
17 varieties of bagel. Our value proposition is we bake our bagels fresh all day long, boiled and baked in store. So our bagels have no preservatives, and 17 kinds of bagels. And, a fresh bagel is better than one that's been sitting there all day. So we're in Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, soon to be Kentucky, and we're enjoying our expansion throughout the Great Lakes region.
Beautiful. Let me know when you come to
BarryBagels.com. Yep. Check us out. Give me a shout. We'd love to see you.
All right, you gotta come to Mass, because I'll tell you this: we are swimming, we are awash in a sea of Dunkin' Donuts, and their bagels are terrible. Terrible.
I understand. We'll get there.
So do me a favor, Massachusetts next expansion, Midwest.
We'll get there. There you go.
We have money. I don't know.
I understand. Hey, I'd love to be there. I would love to be. I'll be right on the green line.
I'll help you. Oh, look at you, a little insider knowledge.
Little Kenmore Square. All right.
All right. I gotta log off, but stay with me for a second so we can talk in the green room. I will be back tomorrow, America, with another episode of Get to Know the CEO. You love this stuff, I can tell. Jim, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
All right.